So this is a carburetor I bought to convert my generator, a Choremaster 3500, into a natural gas propane fueled system. So this carburetor I bought it off of Amazon. It was $31.48 Canadian, so $31.48 Canadian, free shipping. I ordered it March 13th. It shipped March 14th, and it arrived here on April 13th. So it arrived in a month, which I thought was pretty amazing considering all the coronavirus shutdown and stuff that's going on in China. I didn't read too closely on the details, but I'm pretty pleased by it if it works. So it's actually a multi-fuel carburetor. So there's a connection point here for the natural gas and LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, propane. And then there's also a connection for a gasoline from the fuel tank. Just a few quick things about it. So we have a hose here that goes to a little valve, and then a little barb nipple. This, I'm assuming, is for draining the bowl of the carburetor when it's being used in gasoline service. This here is the choke. They provided a little handle for it. Correction, that's the throttle, which I haven't checked it out yet, but I hope that's compatible with the throttle linkage on the generator. This here is, as I said, this is the LPG natural gas connection point. It's a barb fitting. I'm going to end up changing that out, I think, to a flare fitting. Barb fittings are not acceptable in natural gas and LPG services. So, yeah, that's not a good idea. This is, of course, the pressure regulator. I'm assuming this is some sort of adjustment for the outlet pressure. Most regulators have it's actually like a spring that you can screw in or screw out to add or release pressure on the diaphragm to control the outlet pressure. This here is a selectable orifice. So there'd be two orifices in here. I haven't taken apart, but that's what it has to be. So we've got an LPG orifice, and then we have a natural gas orifice. So yeah, that's what gives you your various fuel capacities. The reason for that is the heat content of the gases are different. So natural gas is approximately 1,000 BTUs per cubic foot. LPG, I think, is about 2,500, 2,400 BTUs per cubic foot. So you need to, the orifice for the LPG would be smaller than the orifice for the natural gas. And then this here is the choke. Along this here connects somehow to the choke mechanism. I haven't figured out actually how to put it together. And then this is the barb connection for the fuel line from the fuel tank. So yeah, I'm looking forward to putting this on and seeing if it runs. I have to pick up the connections for the SE. I don't have anything that would be like a flare fitting for this. I don't have. I'm not going to cut the hose on my propane regulator in order to put it on here. So a fitting would be a lot cheaper and, of course, more safe. And then I have to figure out how I'm going to test it on my natural gas system. So just some word of warnings. I'm a a ticketed gas fitter, so I do have some experience in gas fitting. It's best not to fiddle around with your gas system in your house if you aren't trained for it. Um, and yeah. So here's just a quick view of the original carburetor. I took the gas tank off. We just can see its sort of general shape. And then here is the replacement carburetor, which will go into its place. So far, looks like it's all the same. The linkages for the throttle look about the same, and then we'll see how this the choke works. The choke here. So here's a comparison of the two carburetors removed. This inlet looks to be the same. The original carburetor does have this little port here that I had mentioned, but it's non-adjustable. It's just a plug versus this one, which is adjustable needle valve. I don't know. I still don't know what it does. Like, I don't. Maybe there's some sort of internal port here that allows fuel, a sort of spray of fuel in there. I don't know. I might back off this guy here to match. Or you know what? I'm just going to leave this the same. Anyways, so that's the face. There we're looking at the here's the two of them from this perspective. So this idle adjustment, which I've never used on the original carburetor. And here we go, the choke. The choke there, and then here we go for the inlet of the fuel. Top is again about the same. So there we're looking at the top, so pretty much identical. Yeah, I don't see the choke here looks a little different. Oh, I see how the choke works. It's a little, there's a little, the choke works like with a gear. There's a post here, and then there's like a little a yoke, I guess, in here. See? Okay, now I get. Good thing I did this. So here's the new carburetor on. So with this generator, there's a bit of a interference. So the interference is, this is some sort of pollution control filter. So I think any uncombusted VOCs, small engine type stuff. Small engines are terrible as far as pollution control measures, and also how much carbon monoxide they put out. I guess all engines put out the same amount of carbon monoxide. Well, probably not. Small engines probably were not tuned very well. Anyways, so this is some sort of filter scrubber. I've never actually taken it off and looked in it, but I think maybe I will do that. So I can't put the new carburetor on with this on, so maybe I'll pull it apart and see what's inside, and go from there. So this pollution filter or whatever it is going to have to sort of be moved out of the way. Maybe I can tie wrap it to over here or something. I need to leave this area fairly open in order to get the gaseous fuel, which would be your natural gas or your propane into here. Yeah, so figure out what to do with this. Maybe I can just forget it for now. Who knows? And then so here's the carburetor attached. And I just need to put this this guy on for the choke, and then we should be good to go. And I'll put the fuel tank on and we'll try running it and see if the carburetor runs it.
So that's the generator running off of gasoline. Honestly, it's actually running better than the original carburetor's on. It's at a steadier rate to it. That's a success so far. So now we'll work towards getting the gaseous fuel to it, natural gas and propane.
So here's this filter. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get it open because there's all these little, it looks like it was kind of spot welded or maybe epoxied closed. So don't know what's inside of it. We'll just set it aside for now. So this gas connection has kind of turned into a bit of a pain. So this right here, this connecting point, as far as I can tell, it's a 12 millimeter with a 1 millimeter thread pitch on it. That's this barb fitting that goes in here. What I want to do is kind of go from this point into a 3/8 flare connection, which is what typical barbecue regulators and whatnot go. I did buy a 1/4 inch male to go in here, but it turns out the 1/4 inch is too small. For some reason I thought that it would work. So I don't have quite the pieces that I wanted. So what my options are to drill and tap this out to a 1/4 inch NPT, and then get a 1/4 inch nipple, and then I can thread that in like this and get my 3/8 inch. So what we have here is a 1/4 inch by 3/8 inch connection, and then this is a 3/8 by 3/8 by 3/8 flare nut. So, or flare connection here. So anyways, that's where we're at. So what I'm going to actually try to do is I'm going to cut it right here, and then I'm going to see if I can thread a 1/4 inch die on here, which would allow me to go onto this bushing. And this bushing is it's a 1/4 inch by 3/8, I believe, or maybe 1/8. There's correction. It's a 1/8 by 1/4 inch. So this tap this down to 1/8 inch into here, and then 1/4 inch out, 1/4 inch into this bushing or this reducer, and then into the flare fitting. So we'll try that. So I'm just going to cut the barb off, such as this, and then we'll try running a die down it. So the OD of a 1/8 nipple, brass nipple, NPT is about 9.5 millimeters, and then the OD outer diameter of this fitting, now that I cut that barb off, is about 10.75. So we're still a millimeter too big. So I'm going to actually try just taking a file and just trying to file this around a bit, just to get it below. I don't have a means of machining this right now. Otherwise, I would just turn this down. But I might be able to do it with a file. Take millimeters worth of material off. So we'll try that. So I'm gonna try using my Dremel just to take the edge off here and try to do it as easy as possible. This this Dremel bit here is I bought it from Amazon or eBay, and it's supposed to be diamond, but who knows? They're super cheap. Maybe they're a diamond. I don't know. Anyways, it should be a lot harder than the brass. So hopefully this will take this take my millimeter of material off, and we'll see where we get from there. So I managed to follow this down to roughly, it's averaging about 9.5 to 9.7 millimeters. It seems pretty round. When I do the die on it, we'll see if the die might actually, round it out a bit more, like make it more round, and then even out any sort of unevenness in it, because the die just cut through the brass. So I'm going to try using. You're supposed to use kerosene for threading brass. I don't have any kerosene, but this is a 2-cycle engine fuel, so try that. That's probably the closest I've got to kerosene. Anyways, see where we go. So I just finished threading that fitting, so it turned out pretty good. I'm pleased with this. So it does fit into the bushing pretty well. So I'm going to start assembling all the fittings here and stick it into the carburetor. So we'll be connecting up a carburetor to a 3/8 flare, which is what barbecues are supposed to be on. So here's the assembled fitting assembly. I guess it's a little mouthful of words. Anyways, it's all put together. So this right there was the fitting that I made out of the barb fitting. So it goes from whatever this fitting is going into the regulator, which I believe is 12 millimeters with a 1-inch or correction 1 millimeter thread pitch. I cut off the barb and filed it down to make approximately a 1/4 inch, and then a 1/4 inch OD, or correction, an 1/8 of an inch OD pipe, and then I tapped that. Correction, I put a die on that. I threaded it to 1/8 inch NPT. This here is a 1/8 to 1/4 bushing. This is a 1/4 to 3/8 reducer, and then this here is just a 3/8 NPT to 3/8 flare. So hopefully that will fit my my barbecue hose, and we'll try running this on LPG. If you're not familiar with it, this blue stuff here is pipe dope. This is what I had just from work. So yeah, I can't remember if brass requires pipe dope for fitting. I think you might be able to get away without it because of the softness of the metals, but probably can't hurt. Interestingly, I have a God-given talent where if I come within a meter of pipe dope, I manage to get it all over my clothes and my face and hair. So we'll go and check myself out and see if I've got it on me. So I was just doing a little bit of I guess power engineering on the fuel capacities of the. This is my propane barbecue regulator, and on like the gas consumption of my generator right here, which is 3600 max wattage and 3000 continuous wattage. So this is a barbecue regulator, and I ran over a few calculations just to see what we've got. So here we are. So to start with, we have my barbecue max load is 48,300 BTUs per hour. A typical single stage barbecue regulator is 60,000 BTUs per hour. So that's what I'm assuming my reg is here. I don't actually know. I couldn't find it online what its rated capacity is. It's some generic piece of production from probably China. So only the OEMs know what it does. Anyways, so my generator max load is 3,600 watts. Convert that over to BTUs per hour, you get 12,283 BTUs per hour. I looked up some information on gasoline generator efficiencies. So they're 18 to 20% efficient, or typically 18 to 20%, which seems reasonable. Internal combustion engines, gasoline engines are not particularly efficient. Like even car engines, they're you're not getting much bang for your buck, to be honest with them. So anyways, I calculated the fuel demand at the lower end, so 18%, which provides a BTU fuel demand for my generator at max wattage, the 3,600 watts, of 68,238 BTUs per hour. So at full load, fuel demand exceeds the barbecue regulator capacity a bit, because the fuel demand is higher than the regulator capacity, 60,000. The max continuous wattage on it is 3,000. We go through the same calculation. We get a max continuous load fuel demand of 56,867 BTUs per hour. So at max continuous load, fuel demand does not exceed the barbecue regulator capacity, which is good to know. So we can probably use this regulator in a pinch if we needed to run the generator for a long period of time. But this generator size is at your maximum barbecue regulator. So anything over 3,000 watts, you're going to need a different type of regulator. So just figured I'd have that in place before we hook it up and run it on propane, or see if it runs on propane. All right, so I've got it connected up my propane tank to the carburetor. So just to make sure everything's good, I've got fuel off from the fuel tank. I've got the bowl has been drained, so there's no gasoline in the bowl. The orifice is set for LPG, so we've got that set. So yeah, so I'm going to just try to start up and see what happens. So I'm having a bit of a tough time getting it to stay running. It fires. I'll just show you here. So what I think we're seeing is that we don't get enough fuel here, and my guess is it's about 0 degrees -1 Celsius here. So there might not be enough fuel pressure in the tank here, or enough vapor pressure, because it's so cold to provide enough fuel to go through the regulator. So I'm going to try maybe heating up the tank by taking it inside and letting the vapor pressure in the tank increase. So I'll try it again here in a couple hours after I've warmed up the propane tank. So I managed to get this up and running on propane. I did take apart the regulator. I was trying to take some videos of it, but I was having camera problems. So I did pull this out and kind of fiddle around with the diaphragm a bit. I didn't see anything really wrong with it. The other thing I did is I got a 1/4 inch nipple and I tapped out the inlet to the regulator. This guy back in here. To a 1/4 inch. I didn't use the brass because I didn't have it available. This COVID thing is making it a huge pain in the ass to get into stores. I had this 1/4 inch nipple around, thankfully. So I think maybe one of the problems I was having when I was trying to start it is that I had it with the choke on, and you don't really need it, it seems, with the propane. So I'm going to try starting it again. It seems to be running pretty well, so let's try starting it again. All right, let's try starting this again. So the propane is open, switch is on. I'm going to leave the choke off this time, and let's give her a tug. Okay, that's... running good. I'm running with that nice propane smell. Throttle doesn't seem to be quite as responsive as it is with gasoline, but yeah, still seems to generate, up to 24 amps. So I'm pulling 12 amps right now, or close to it anyways. And then this guy here is starting at 12 amps too, so let's give her a shot. There we go. So momentarily that would probably be in the 24 amps range. 23 amps, so yep. Right on.